This device here lets me connect my laptop to any HDMI monitor or TV wirelessly, so I'm able to have a dual monitor setup and move around freely without any cables holding me back. But is there any latency or loss of quality over wireless? Let's find out. First, let's unbox it. This is the Llano S9 Pro wireless HDMI transmitter, and it's a wireless transmitter that allows you to connect your laptop, smartphone, or even your Nintendo Switch into a display with no cables in between them. This device was sent to me for review, but it'll be my honest opinion as usual. In the box, you get a USB-A to USB-C cable to power the receiver, a short HDMI to HDMI cable to connect the receiver to a display, a short male to female USB-C cable to extend the reach of the transmitter to your device, and finally, the transmitter and the receiver themselves. Something minor that's missing here is a pouch. It's not really a huge deal because you do have these attachment points for wristbands or lanyards or whatever else, but I don't know, for some reason I was just kind of expecting a pouch to be in the box. Now let's go over the device, talking about the design and just kind of give you a quick overview of it. Firstly, we'll talk about the build quality, and this is made of plastic. I know this does have like that kind of orange finish that's very similar to the iPhone 17 Pro Max in the cosmic orange colorway. When I saw this originally, I thought it would be metal, just like the iPhone is anodized aluminum, but no, this is all just plastic through and through. So you have orange plastic here, and then you got like a little bit of contrast here, similar to like the two-tone iPhone. Then you have white here as well, and just kind of a glossy white finish there. Not a super premium material, but it's plastic. It's good enough. Let's talk about the size. As you can see, it's not tiny. If I compare it to my smartphone, you can see not huge, but it's also not super small. The main issue I'd say is the thickness itself. This is my smartphone with a case and it's thicker than that. But these do disconnect, so you have two separate pieces, one for the receiver and one for the transmitter, and they're much more like portable in this way, but you can kind of attach them like that and stick them together and transport them that way. Like this, it can fit in your pocket because it's not really that big, but the main issue with this being this size, especially the transmitter, is that if you attach it to your smartphone like this, it kind of adds a lot of bulk onto it, so you can't just put it into your pocket. It might not be an issue depending on the smartphone you have. I'll get into why later on. If you do have a laptop, you can also just stick this in. It's not going to be massive compared to a laptop. So let's talk about the receiver first. And even though this says it's wireless, you will obviously need cables to connect it to a display. So there's two ports on this. You have an HDMI port and a USB-C port. The HDMI port is obviously to connect this to a monitor or TV. So anything that supports HDMI you can connect this to. The USB-C port is to power this receiver itself, because you need to power this to be able to receive and transmit that signal over HDMI. So that can be kind of an issue if you're connecting to a display or something that doesn't have a USB-C port or there's no power source nearby. But with a lot of TVs, there's USB ports near the HDMI, so you can very easily power this through there. And if you have a monitor that has USB-C ports as well, you can power it through there. And it's not really unheard of because things like the Fire Stick and, the Google TV streamer, whatever they're calling it now, the Chromecast, they also need to have USB power. So you have to connect them to the TV or a power source nearby. Not a huge deal, just something to be aware of. And for the transmitter, something that kind of bummed me out is there's no HDMI on this. It's only USB-C. So you can only connect these to devices that can transmit display signal over USB-C. So that's fine for most of the part. You can connect it to a smartphone, you can connect it to a computer, a laptop, you can connect it to a Nintendo Switch, and you can transmit your signal wirelessly that way. But it does kind of limit your device options. One use case that I thought this would be very useful for is for my camera field monitor. So right now I'm recording on my camera and I have a monitor down here that is connected wired. But if I was able to use this over HDMI, I could connect this to the camera and have the monitor within reach here, and I could just, have it in my hand essentially. That's a bit of a unique use case for me, but if you're just using it for a smartphone or for a laptop, you don't really need to worry about that. And even though this does have the USB-C, which you can connect to your smartphone, you can also kind of do away with the transmitter and use this with only the receiver. And the way this works is you connect the receiver as you normally would to your display, but instead of using this to transmit the signal to the receiver, you can instead cast to it, and it uses mirrorcast. So you can cast from your smartphone or your laptop as long as they support that casting technology. It's a much lighter setup. You can leave this plugged into whatever display, just grab your phone and cast from there. But since you have these two methods of transmitting the media, what's the point of using the transmitter if you can just use the cast functionality. And good, I'm glad you asked. So using the transmitter via USB, it's the easiest method. It's plug and play. You just connect this into your device, connect this into the screen. They already talk to each other and pair with each other, and you're streaming your media in like no time. And if you have the transmitter, you also have this handy button on here, which if you're viewing something sensitive or something sensitive pops up onto screen, you can just press that button once and it disconnects and stops transmitting to the receiver. And also using the transmitter, you can stream a 4K signal at 30 Hertz. So you get the full resolution that the device is capable of. But if you use a casting method, which I mentioned uses Miracast, the problem there is there's more steps. If you're on Windows, you have to go to the display settings and connect to a wireless display. And if you're on Android, you have to swipe down, go into the quick settings and cast to it. And like I said, that's much less bulky because you don't have to connect this into your smartphone. You'll just have the smartphone itself. But the catch is Miracast is not supported by all devices. And specifically in my use case, I noticed that my Google Pixel doesn't support Miracast because Google wants to encourage the use of Google Cast. So I have to always use this with my smartphone. That's just really frustrating because it's very Apple-like behavior to me. And it's one of the reasons I don't really like Apple products and the reason why I don't use an iPhone. And speaking of, I'm not sure if it works with iPhones directly since I don't have one to test it with, but if you do have an iPhone, you can still use this as long as you have a USB-C iPhone. Oh, and through the casting method, you can only transmit up to 1080p. So you do have lower quality that way. It's not an issue though if you have a 1080p monitor or display, or if the media you're streaming is only 1080p. There's no loss there really. And now that we're on the topic of quality, as I said, you have a resolution cap of 4K on the transmitter and a cap of 1080p casting to the receiver directly. And obviously there's going to be a little bit lower quality with 1080p compared to 4K, but we also need to know if there's any like artifacts or latency or anything else. So I tested both methods and streamed them to a 55-inch 4K TV so we can view 4K media on there. And also, because of how large the screen is, we can see very closely if there's like any differences or artifacts or subtle losses of quality that you might not even notice on a smaller display. And yeah, basically it was a clean signal through both of them. It's kind of hard to show on video because of moire. The direct transmitter to receiver signal does look better because of that 4K resolution, I think. And the only time I ever noticed some subtle artifacts was through a very old and bad Windows laptop that I've been having issues with. I cast it from my ThinkPad directly, and I also used the Pixel with a transmitter, and I had no issues with the signal then. Everything was smooth, everything looked beautiful, no noticeable latency in my opinion. But I still wouldn't recommend it for competitive gaming, but I think it's good enough for movies, TV shows, and just viewing content in general. So who is this for? Well, I think this is for anybody who really wants to smartify a dumb TV, projector, monitor, or display and add casting functionality to it, or even to add casting to smart TVs that don't support certain casting methods. You can connect the receiver to the TV and then have the transmitter so you can cast to that TV still. It's also great for projectors. You could leave this connected to a projector and then cast to it directly through your laptop or smartphone, or use the transmitter to do that. It's also great if you want freedom moving around with your laptop or with your device placement. You don't have any restrictions on where you should put your device because of cables or cable lengths. And personally for me, when I work on the go with a portable monitor, I do sometimes like to get up and go sit down on a couch and just have my laptop. So if I have this, it's easier for me to just get up and go than to have start disconnecting and reconnecting wires. The only catch is that it's a little bit pricey at 140 USD for the 4K version or 200 CAD for the 4K version. So it's up to you to decide whether that's worth it for you to spend on this. I think it's nice to have. I know it's no issues with quality, so I'd say it's worth the price. But if you already have devices or other ways of casting the media, it's not really needed. If you do want to get this, I'll have a link in the description, and I'll also have a discount code on screen that you can use with your order. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more similar content if you did. And I think that's all. See you next time.